welcome to the deep dive. So, we always kick these things off with a good question. And today, it's something I've been personally wrestling with. Like, is passion, that burning desire, is that really the key to a fulfilling career?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we hear it everywhere, right? Follow your passion, find your dream job, all that.
Right. But, like, what if that's actually kind of bad advice?
Yeah.
What if there's a smarter way to think about it? And lucky for us, we've got Cal Newport's book, So Good They Can't Ignore You, to help us unpack this whole thing.
Yeah, and Newport, he kind of flips the script on us, doesn't he? He's like, hold on, maybe it's not all about passion. He says instead of chasing that feeling, we should be building something he calls career capital.
Career capital. Okay, I love that. So,
Yeah.
like, what is that exactly? Is it like money, but for your career?
Kind of. It's more like your unique skills and experiences, right? The stuff that makes you stand out, makes you valuable. It's your currency in the job market.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So the more career capital you have, the more options you have,
Yep.
right? More
Mhm.
control, more freedom.
Bingo. It's like, you know how they say money can't buy happiness? Well, career capital can't guarantee it either. But it sure does give you a lot more choices. You can pursue the work you truly find fulfilling on your own terms.
Yeah, makes sense. So instead of chasing this vague idea of passion, we should be focusing on building these concrete skills and experiences.
Yeah, and the book is full of these really cool stories about people who found success, real success and fulfillment. But it wasn't by following some grand passion. It was by becoming masters at what they do.
Okay, give me an example. Like, who are we talking about here?
All right, well, how about Steve Martin? Comedian, actor, writer, you name it.
Oh, yeah. Love Steve Martin. Wild and crazy guy. Always makes me laugh.
Right. But he didn't just magically become a comedic icon, overnight. He spent years honing his craft, performing at amusement parks, those small clubs, before he really hit it big.
I actually remember reading about that. He really paid his dues, spent hours, like, perfecting his banjo playing too, right?
Totally. And that's what Newport calls the craftsman mindset. It's about focusing on getting exceptionally good at what you do, not just what you feel passionate about.
Yeah.
As Steve Martin himself famously said, be so good they can't ignore you.
Okay, that is a great quote. Be so good they can't ignore you. Love it. But it also kind of makes you wonder, what about those people who chase passion without, the chops to back it up?
Yeah, that's where the whole passion hypothesis kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
Because it sets you up with these crazy expectations that are almost impossible to meet, and then you end up just like job hopping, always chasing that next shiny thing.
Ugh, yeah. I've definitely been there, done that. Started a few things, all gung-ho, thought it was the one. But man, the reality was not so glamorous.
Right. It's
What's
like
hap-
you chase that initial excitement, that spark, but without the right skills and experience, the passion just, fizzles out. Poof. And that's why career capital is so important.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light here. So it's not that passion is like, the enemy or anything. It's just that it needs to be balanced with real skills, real expertise.
Yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot where passion and, what you're good at, where those two things meet. That's where the magic happens.
So I got to ask, is there like a dark side to all of this? I mean, we're talking about building up skills, getting really good. But what happens when, you want more control, more say in your work?
Ah, you're talking about the control trap. It's in the book, right? Newport says we all crave control, autonomy. But wanting that control without the career capital to back it up, well, that's asking for trouble.
It's like that saying, right? Fake it till you make it.
Well, kinda. Newport puts it this way. It's like wanting to be a rock star without learning to play an instrument.
Ooh, yeah, that's going to be a tough gig to land.
Right. So you need to earn that control, right, by building up your skills, your expertise.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm guessing it's not always that simple.
You got it. There's this other side to the control trap, too. See, sometimes, even when you have the career capital, your employer, they might not want to give you more control. You've become too valuable to them where you are.
Ah, so it's like they don't want to lose their star player. But how do you navigate that? I mean, you've earned that right to more autonomy, haven't you?
You have, but it takes finesse. You got to be strategic. Use that career capital to make it a win-win for you and your employer.
So it's not just about getting the skills, it's about knowing how to use them, right,
Yeah.
to get the kind of work you want.
Exactly. It's like, in a game. You don't just need the skills. You need to know how to play the game. And that's where deliberate practice comes in.
Okay, got to break that one down for me. What is deliberate practice? It sounds kind of intense.
It is intense, but in a good way. It's not just working hard, it's working smart. You know,
Give me an example. Like, what does that look like in practice?
think about an athlete, right? Training for the Olympics. They don't just like play their sport over and over. They break down those skills, they practice with intense focus, and they're always looking for feedback to improve.
So it's about being really intentional with your efforts, even when it's uncomfortable, pushing yourself.
Exactly. And the cool thing is this applies to anything. You're a writer. Cool. Deliberate practice. Programmer. Deliberate practice. Entrepreneur. Same thing.
Yeah.
It's about pushing past your comfort zone, always finding ways to level up.
I like that. Level up. It's like a video game for your career. But, we've been talking about skills, control, all that. What about finding your purpose, your mission? Where does that fit in?
Ah, that's the big question, isn't it? Like, is it about chasing your passion or is there something else going on?
Yeah, because we're told, find your passion, then build your career around it. But I'm not so sure anymore.
Well, Newport has this really cool idea. He calls it the adjacent possible. Basically, it means that the most exciting breakthroughs, the meaningful missions we're all looking for, they often happen at the edge of what's already known.
So, like, you're not just retreading the same old ground. You're exploring, going where no one has gone before.
Exactly. You can't just sit around waiting for inspiration to hit you. You got to be out there expanding your knowledge, testing those boundaries, and then boom, that's where you find the really cool stuff.
Okay, so we need to become experts first so we can even see those missions, those opportunities out there in the adjacent possible.
Right. It's like, if you only know one little corner of the world, how can you possibly know what else is out there? You got to explore to find those hidden gems.
Wow. Okay, this is really making me rethink my whole approach to, well, everything. It's not about finding that one perfect dream job. It's about building a career, becoming so good that the opportunities come to you.
Yeah, it's about taking ownership, building something truly amazing.
This is awesome. I'm fired up. And hopefully our listeners are too. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to explore.
Yeah, there is.
This has been an awesome start to our deep dive into So Good They Can't Ignore You, but we're just getting warmed up.
We are.
Stay tuned because in the next part, we'll be digging deeper into, the nitty-gritty of deliberate practice,
Mm.
how to find your mission in that adjacent possible, and how to, use all that career capital you've been building to create a career you actually love. I can't wait.
Me neither. It's going to be good.
As we were talking about deliberate practice before, I was thinking about, like, musicians.
Oh, yeah. It's a perfect example.
Right, they really embody that whole idea.
Totally. I mean, musicians, they're like masters of deliberate practice. They spend hours like breaking down these complicated pieces, practicing scales, refining their technique. It's incredible.
It's not just raw talent either. It's about
Yeah.
putting in the time. The sheer effort and focus is mind-blowing.
Yeah. And Newport, he actually talks about a musician in the book, this Nashville studio guy named Mark Cass Stevens. Rings a bell.
Oh, yeah. Cass Stevens, super talented, plays like a million instruments, worked with some huge names.
Right. But here's the thing. Even at his level, we're talking like award-winning, top of his game kind of guy, he still pushes himself to learn new stuff.
That's the craftsman mindset in action right there. Never satisfied, always striving for more.
Exactly. And he talks about like working on these insanely complicated tunes, with all these crazy bar chords and counterpoint. It's like a constant challenge.
Sounds kind of painful, to be honest, all that work. But I guess that's the point. You got to push yourself outside that comfort zone if you want to grow.
Exactly. What's so cool about his story is that it shows deliberate practice isn't just for like musicians or athletes. It's something we all can do in any field.
So you're saying we can all be rock stars. Just got to put in the time.
Well, maybe not rock stars, literally, but in our own fields, yeah. Newport gives another great example, Alex Berger, this TV writer. He cracked Hollywood by applying deliberate practice.
Wait, is this the guy who went from, like, writing scripts in his spare time to, like, co-creating a show with Michael Eisner? That's a crazy jump.
That's him. And it's not like he just got lucky or anything. The guy was strategic, focused on feedback, revising like crazy, pushing himself to write in all these different genres.
So even if he wasn't, like, passionate about a particular genre, he made himself try it anyway.
Yep. Because he knew it would make him a better writer overall.
That's pretty cool. It reminds me of when I was starting out, actually. I was, host speaker shares a personal anecdote about their career journey and how they push themselves outside their comfort zone. It wasn't always easy, but it was totally worth it in the end.
I feel you. I totally get that. There were definitely times in my own career where I had to. Expert speaker shares a personal anecdote about a time they had to push themselves to learn a new skill.
Yeah, it's those moments, right? where you just have to buckle down and put in the work,
Yeah.
even when it's not, fun and games.
Exactly. And that's where deliberate practice is so key. It's about breaking down those big, overwhelming goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
Ah, that makes it way less scary, for sure.
Huh.
I like that, breaking it down. So, okay, what about Newport himself? Did he use deliberate practice too?
Oh, yeah. He talks about this time he was working on a really tough mathematical proof. Remember that part?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. He was like going through every single step, filling in the gaps, really wrestling with
Yeah.
that. Super intense.
Exactly. And you know what? He ended up finding errors that even, like, the experts had missed.
No way, really. That's amazing.
Right. It just goes to show the power of this approach. It's not just about the time you put in, it's about the quality of your effort.
Yeah, totally. It's like, you can spend an hour scrolling mindlessly on social media, or you could spend that same hour reading a challenging book and taking notes. It's a different kind of focus.
Perfect analogy. It's about being intentional, focused, even when it's tough. But, all this talk about being intentional with your career, it makes me think about mission. Like, where does that fit in? We've been talking about skills and all, but what about purpose?
Right. The whole find your purpose thing.
Yeah.
Is it about chasing passion, or is there a different way to think about it? We touched on the adjacent possible earlier, but maybe we should unpack that a little more.
For sure. I think a lot of people get stuck on that one.
Yeah, it's kind of a tricky concept.
Well, the basic idea is that the really groundbreaking stuff, the innovations,
Yeah.
the meaningful missions, they often pop up in those spaces just beyond what we already know.
So not just doing the same old thing, but venturing out into uncharted territory.
Exactly. You can't just sit back and wait for inspiration to strike. You got to actively push those boundaries of knowledge and skills. That's where the magic happens.
So we got to be the explorers, become experts first, so we can even recognize those opportunities, those potential missions when we see them.
Yes. Think about it like a map, right? The adjacent possible is like those blank spaces, beyond the known world. You got to go out there and explore to see what's out there.
I love that visual. Okay, so how do we actually find those missions once we've, reached that expert level?
Well, Newport lays out a few key strategies, and one that really resonated with me is the little bets approach. It's from Peter Sinz's work. Basically, it's about testing out different ideas, experimenting, seeing what sticks.
So not putting all your eggs in one basket, but spreading out the risk a bit, making those smaller, calculated moves.
Yep, it's like dipping your toes in the water before you jump in head first.
Love that metaphor. So much less scary. So instead of trying to figure out your one true calling, you're just playing around with possibilities.
Right. And you never know what you might find along the way. Newport uses the example of Kirk French, this archaeologist. You know what he ended up doing? Hosting a show on the Discovery Channel. American Treasures, I think it was called.
Oh, that's right. He wasn't just, like, born a TV star.
Nope. He had this general goal to make archaeology more popular, but he wasn't sure how. So he tried a bunch of different things. Released a DVD, filmed a documentary, even started a film series for his students.
And it was that student film series that caught the eye of a TV producer, right? Crazy how these things work out.
It really is. It just shows how those little bets, those experiments, can lead you down these unexpected paths.
So it's like you're sending out these little probes into the adjacent possible, and bam, one of them connects with something amazing.
Exactly. And it's way less intimidating than trying to plan out your whole career from the get-go.
I love it. It's all starting to click now. The skills, the control, the mission. It's not about finding that perfect job. It's about creating it.
You got it. And it's funny, as you were talking about those little bets, it made me think about my own career.
Ooh, really? Do tell.
Well, early in my career, I was super into. Expert speaker shares a personal anecdote about their career journey and a time they took a little bet that led to an unexpected opportunity.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Taking those chances really can pay off.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that whole career capital thing we were talking about earlier.
Right. Remember, career capital, those rare and valuable skills that make you stand out. It's like your secret weapon for building a fulfilling career, one that really makes an impact.
Yeah. And it doesn't just happen overnight, right? You got to be intentional about it.
Absolutely. You got to put in the effort, make those deliberate choices to invest in your skills, push yourself to learn and grow, always looking for ways to get better.
It's like that whole deliberate practice thing we were talking about. Working smart, not just hard.
Exactly. And the best part is, the more career capital you build, the more control you have.
Right. More options, more opportunities. You can really start to call the shots.
That's the goal, isn't it? And it's not just some fantasy. Cal Newport, he's got all these examples in the book of people who've done it.
Yeah, like Mike Jackson, the venture capitalist guy. Remember him?
Oh yeah, Mike. He didn't start out with some big master plan. He just focused on being really, really good at each step along the way.
And that's what opened all those doors for him. Finance, energy, entrepreneurship. He just kept building up his expertise.
Yeah.
Now he's living the dream.
It's like he created his own luck, became so valuable that the opportunities just found him.
So cool. But, we've been talking a lot about the individual,
Hmm.
you know, building skills, finding a mission. But there's a bigger picture here, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about personal success. Newport argues that this whole focus on skills and mastery, it actually benefits society as a whole.
Yeah, that's interesting. How so?
Well, he says that when people focus on becoming really good at what they do, it sparks innovation, drives progress, and ultimately makes life better for everyone.
That makes sense. I mean, the more skilled and dedicated people are, the better everything gets, right? The products, the services, the solutions they create.
Exactly. And it makes me think about the future of work. Things are changing so fast.
Yeah. The old rules don't really apply anymore. Jobs are changing. Technology's disrupting everything. It's kind of wild out there.
It is. And in that kind of world, the most valuable thing you can have is your skill set,
Hmm.
your ability to learn new things, adapt, create.
So, more than ever, we need to embrace that craftsman mindset. Become so good they can't ignore us, no matter what craziness the future throws our way.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been an amazing deep dive into Cal Newport's So Good They Can't Ignore You. We've covered so much, but I feel like there's still so much more to learn.
Me too.
We talked about the power of skills over passion, the importance of deliberate practice, the allure of control, the search for a mission, and of course, building that all-important career capital.
And hopefully we've shown how all these pieces fit together to create a more fulfilling, impactful career journey.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that passion, it's not something you just stumble upon. You got to cultivate it through mastery, through dedication.
And that the most successful and fulfilled people out there, they're not always the ones who followed some pre-existing passion. They're the ones who became so good they couldn't be ignored.
That's inspiring. So to our listeners out there, what are you going to focus on? What skills are you going to develop? What chances are you going to take?
What kind of career capital are you going to build?
Remember, that adjacent possible, it's out there waiting. Go explore.
Go for it.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing those boundaries.
And be so good they can't ignore you.